So today we're going to work with the fourth chakra, the Anahata chakra, and the fifth chakra. And so the Anahata, welcome everybody. Okay, so Anahata means not stuck. And the Anahata chakra represents the pure sound of creation, represented by a 12-petaled lotus. So beautiful. You know, the Bhakti tradition, we're big on lotuses, right? So each petal represents a quality of the heart. I'll say them slowly and then I'll say them again. Love, bliss, harmony, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, peace, clarity.
Wait a minute. Peace, clarity.
Empathy, purity, kindness, and unity. Okay, I'm going to say them again. I think I might have added one. I think I added understanding, which is important. But bliss, harmony, understanding, compassion, forgiveness, peace, clarity, empathy, purity, kindness, and unity. So, going forward with our metaphor of this little baby girl, right? So she's beginning to feel. So first she was just being held, feeling trust. Then she was beginning to create words. Then she was beginning to act. And now she's beginning to feel some, she's growing. In other words, this is like a baby grows to adolescence and then to youth when they can take a little responsibility to give back. So she's beginning to feel some appreciative gratitude. She's growing to a middle point. This Anahata chakra, or the heart chakra, is like the middle chakra. It mediates between and harmonizes between the body and the spirit. It negotiates their health and strength, and it propels our emotional development. It's located in the heart place, the center of the chest. It's connected with the heart, the circulatory system, the breasts, the lungs, our emotional perceptions, and the color is green. So I was thinking about, there's this beautiful, Ashley's not here, but there was this beautiful herbalist from the Middle Ages, Hildegard von Bingen. I don't know if you've heard of her. No. Anyway, she's such a genius. She was an herbalist. She composed symphonies. She was a healer. She argued with popes. She was really, really great and ahead of her time. And so she talked about, she had this phrase, the greening of the soul, from Hildegard von Bingen. If you ever want to read a really good read, it's a contemporary book. I mean, if you try to read Hildegard von Bingen, it's pretty esoteric. But there's a beautiful book called, what's it called? God's Hotel. Which is, yeah, you read, yeah?
I gave it to you.
I thought I gave it to you. I gave it to you. Well, we'll just have a little fight about it. But it's really beautiful. It's written by a woman who's a medical doctor. You know that book, Sam?
I've seen it, but I haven't read it.
Oh, it's great. And the best part is you have to read in the index. She has a letter written by one of her drug addicts, people who stayed in this. It was like a rehabilitation center, kind of like the last holistic healing center, and it's the whole story is the struggle or the way it gets transformed into a modern medical facility, all automated and mechanized. But she, at the end, in the appendix, she has this beautiful letter. It's called a letter that needs no stamp. I wish I had it here. I don't think I have it in here. But it's written by one of her, I think he was a drug addict or something who was resident there. And he writes this letter to God. And he's like, hang in there, buddy. You know, I know a lot of people curse you, and you're supposed to have had a crazy son, and, you know, and do you ever get a break? Like, chill out and have a pizza. It's so charming. It's really charming. Anyway, so, but she talks a lot about Hildegard von Bingen because she's working in this facility, but then she takes time out to go do these, we call them parikrams or yatras, but like these hikes through these holy pilgrimages in Europe, and she studies Hildegard. It's a really good book. Anyway, so this heart chakra is about harmonization or stimulation of a sense of balanced empathy. And it's about lessons related to love, forgiveness, compassion. It's about our ability to let go and let God, releasing emotional pain, and letting go of the need to know why things happen the way they do. Approaching or reaching a state of tranquility. It's about nurturing ourselves. And it's a place of coming to an awareness of our emotional response to our own thoughts and ideas, and the attention we give to our own emotional needs. So it's interesting when you contrast children and the way they respond to stimulus, contrasting that to the way adults do. So children react to circumstances with a range of emotions: love or tenderness or compassion, confidence, hope, despair, hate, envy, fear. But as adults, we tend to stuff it down, right? And we're challenged to try to generate an emotion, like an authentic emotional response or climate or steadiness, to act consciously and act with compassion. So that's interesting when you think about the difference between the way children respond to a bug or to a mud puddle or to a, anything. So what are the fears connected with this anahata, heart chakra? Fears of loneliness, fear of commitment, fear of following one's heart, fear of emotional weakness and betrayal, becoming a victim, like taking a false shelter in victimhood, and just that disparity or disagreement between the heart and the head. So when we're lacking in fourth chakra energy, it can promote in us a feeling of jealousy or bitterness, anger, hatred, an inability to forgive oneself, and maybe a kind of smothering.
What triggers those feelings?
Just that these are like when we're lacking.
Oh, when we're lacking.
Yeah, when we're lacking fourth chakra energy. I'll just repeat them. So, yeah, when we're lacking in that centeredness in the heart chakra, positive energy, it can give rise to jealousy, bitterness, anger, hatred, an inability to forgive oneself, and maybe smothering. As I think I'm loving, it might be smothering. So then what are the strengths? The strengths would be love, forgiveness, compassion, dedication, inspiration, hope, trust, an ability to heal oneself and heal others. And I would also say like reciprocal gratitude would be a symptom of an awakened fourth chakra place. Yeah, the heart chakra is the place of beginning our inner work, I would say. beginning gratitude. And gratitude, I always think of gratitude as like a pivotal place between matter and spirit, you know. So it's the place of beginning to act in the mode of goodness, which is kind of a transparency of the heart, where we are transparent to our own desires and transparent to beginning to hear the divine voice. That like Chaitanya talks about this kind of cloudiness of the dust-covered mirror, right? So when we're in the lower modes of nature, passion or ignorance, we're kind of cloudy, and we don't really see ourselves. We don't see the world. We don't see God. We don't see or hear divinity. Right? So so the invitation and sacred truth of this chakra is that love is divine power, and this is really our true power center. It's the true motivator of the human body and spirit connection. And it's described that unconditional love is the essence of love in its pure form. So what does that mean, unconditional love? Anybody want to venture? What would you call unconditional love, from what you know or what you've heard or read?
Not expecting anything in return.
Yeah, it's not a buy and sell, right? It's not I scratch your back, you scratch my back. It's not, I give you something and now you owe me. It's about, in the Bhakti tradition, it's love that's not mixed with fruitive desires, I want something back, or even desire for knowledge.
It's also love irregardless.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. And that's how Radharani loves. That's how she loves Krishna. She's considered the greatest lover of Krishna, the divine feminine Radha. So bhakti is defined as a type of sharing. It's a loving responsiveness to divinity. It's a softening of the heart. It's an offering of the heart. And it's an ability to see the intrinsic value in others. So this is very much about the open heart chakra. This lotus is open to see the intrinsic value of others, independent of myself. This person may not be able to do anything for me, but they have intrinsic value of their own. Be able to appreciate others apart from my own worth or benefit, And so alignment in this chakra means that relationships are able to flow with more ease. We have more capacity for forgiveness, more self-love. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about, we've heard Chaitanya talks about humility and tolerance. Being able, when we have those qualities, we can access, chant the holy name constantly. Bhaktivinoda Thakur adds forgiveness. So those qualities help us to open the heart. So there's in this chakra there's a realization that divinity has an endless capacity to forgive and respond to our prayers. And then this kind of self-reflection that can I also reflect that kind of forgiveness toward others? If divinity is so forgiving of me, can I also, in my consciousness, try to reflect that forgiveness? So our own hearts, our heart chakra, is meant to express beauty, compassion, forgiveness, and love. And it's really contrary to our spiritual nature to act otherwise. So this idea of truth and beauty being kindred spirits. We used to have 3 stores called as Kindred Spirits in Washington, D.C. And I took the name from this kind of morbid poem from Emily Dickinson, where she talks about truth and beauty lying in coffins they're both dead. And they're lying, you know this poem? They're lying in coffins next to each other. And they're talking to each other, and truth says, I died for truth. And beauty says, I died for beauty. And then, it's very Emily Dickinson, right? So the idea, that was very important to me in the work I was doing, because we were representing the beautiful work of the hand, all these small studio artists, and it was jewelry and clothes, handmade things. And so the idea that beauty, the beautiful things of this world, could be used to support projects that would impel people to a place of truth. So, yeah, we tried to support Krishna conscious projects, but also women's shelters and, good things. So, kindred spirits. So our journey toward love, I keep using the word evolution, that this is an evolution through the chakras. So just to recap a little bit, the first chakra is about tribal loyalty and support. The second chakra evolves through friendship, and my love can grow to include the other, sharing and caring with others, or those not necessarily connected through blood.
Could you repeat the second again?
Yeah. So the first one's about tribal loyalty and support, right? Then the second one is an expanded, like that light beam grows to expand through friendship, or love growing to include the other, sharing and caring with others, and those who may not be connected to me through blood. It's not just nepotism, me and my tribe against you and your tribe. It's not objectifying others, right? So then the third chakra is about harmonizing our self-confidence, and our feelings in relationship to the physical world. And that's an essential part of forming healthy relationships with other people, and that's the place where we can discover our love of external things, physical and material needs, academics, athletics, fashion, life partners, our work, our home, our body. So those are all third chakra issues. So in this fourth chakra, it's more about going internal. It's more about discovering our internal world, our bond with ourselves, our own emotional needs, more internal learning to love ourselves. And it means having the courage to listen to the heart's emotional messages and guidance. So often we get those messages and we keep ignoring them. You really should move to Alaska and work with that's ridiculous. Whatever it is, right? But sometimes those messages keep coming, and sometimes people do outlandish things, and then they realize, oh my God, that was what I was meant to do. And I kept ignoring that message. So, yeah. So, it's about harmonizing empathy, and the fears may be the archetype of the wounded child. Painful memories, negative attitudes, abuse, dysfunctions. And in this place, in this chakra, it's about unseating the wounded child's authority over us, reconsidering those emotional memories, rephrasing them. It's about how self-love means caring for ourselves enough to forgive people in our past so that the wounds can no longer damage us, right? And the fourth chakra is about moving us into a spiritual maturity. Remember I mentioned the little girl, now she's starting to appreciate. She's having some appreciative gratitude. So it's, moving into a spiritual maturity beyond a judging, demanding parent-child dialogue with others or with the divine. Wanting explanations, fearing the unexpected, beginning to trust spiritual insights to become unwounded, which is really a nice idea, to become unwounded and growing past being a victim and becoming self-empowered. It's about getting to know ourselves, not in relation to anyone or anything, but in relation to ourselves alone. What do I like? What do I love? What do I need for balance? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Am I strong enough to be close to another person and still honor my own emotional needs? You know, to be able to say in a relationship, no, that's not all right. You know, or whatever needs to be said. You know, to honor your boundaries. And then forgiveness means releasing the control that the perception of the wounded victimhood has over my consciousness. Remember, yesterday I was telling that amazing story about this Navajo man who was tortured by the Nazis and became an amazing shaman. So it's about, as his tribe told him, call your spirit back from your past and release the negative influence of all your wounds. So sometimes there's an opportunity for creating a ritual or a prayer, like making an official new beginning, like from this day forth, whatever it may be. So that's a kind of a beautiful thing to do. Yeah, this chakra is about think love, try to live in appreciation and gratitude, and invite change into your life. So I want to share a story that I heard from a friend of mine who's a Buddhist teacher. And she heard this from a friend of hers who's another Buddhist teacher. But this man was working with a student of his. He was a Buddhist mentor. And this student of his he was in the final throes of a very painful, I think, stomach cancer. And, you know, this teacher was telling him, go to the place of mindfulness. He just kept repeating to him, go to the place of mindfulness. And the man was in so much pain, and he was trying. But then at a certain point, he said to his teacher, the mindfulness is just not working. And so then the teacher said to him, then you have to go to the place of the heart. So this is the gift of the fourth chakra. I would say this is the gift of bhakti. Go to the place of love, go to the place of the heart. And it's not bhakti as a sectarian, you know, you got to go to the bhakti center, no. It's everywhere in every tradition, you just have to go find the essence, right? It could be, you know, it could be Episcopal, it could be Catholic, it could be anywhere. Right? So here's a nice quote from Abraham Maslow that I like. He says, this is the gift, to have the wonderful capacity to appreciate again and again, freshly and naively, the basic goods of life with awe, pleasure, wonder, and even ecstasy. Nice, huh? Want to hear it again?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the gift, to have the wonderful, and to me this really speaks about bhakti, it really speaks about the heart chakra, to have the wonderful capacity to appreciate again and again, freshly and naively. Like children look at a bug or a mud puddle or crack the ice or something. You know? Freshly and naively, the basic goods of life with awe, pleasure, wonder, and even ecstasy. Here's another one that I like just as much. This is G.K. Chesterton. He says, I would maintain that thanks are the highest form of thought, and that gratitude is happiness doubled by wonder. If you want to be happy, just go to the place of gratitude and it's immediately doubled. It's beautiful. And then this one is from the famous, this is kind of an expanded version of what you often will hear at a wedding from Corinthians, from Saint Paul. Love is patient and kind. Love is never jealous. It does not brag or boast. It is not puffed up or big-headed. Love does not act in shameful ways, nor does it care only about itself. It is not hot-headed, nor does it keep track of wrongs done to it. Love is not happy with lies and injustices, but truth makes its heart glad. Love keeps walking, even when carrying a heavy load. Love keeps trusting, never loses hope, and stands firm in hard times. The road of love has no end. And I think we said last night, or maybe it was this morning, when the heart breaks open, that's where the light gets in. Right? as we all experienced. So here's some questions for self-examination or discussion you might want to ask yourself. Or maybe we could discuss some of these if there's time. What emotional memories do you still need to heal? Do you ever use emotional wounds to control people or situations? Do you allow yourself to be controlled by the wounds of another person? Do you fear becoming emotionally healthy? Yeah. What's your understanding of forgiveness? What's your understanding of a healthy, intimate relationship? Here's a nice quote from this sort of a hermit. He's a sannyasi who lives at New Vrindavan, Varshana Maharaj. But if you go to New Vrindavan 100 times, you might never meet him. He's like up on the hill. There'll be a few people listening to him, but he's really a hermit. And forget about email, right? So he says, I love this, he says, life is meaningful and love has purpose, no matter what it brings. Love fortifies the immune system. Live life fully, love truly, and let go at the appropriate time. Can you believe that's from ISKCON Sannyasi? Wow. That's good. And then here's from our beloved Franciscan Father Richard Rohr. Let anxiety be a portal for spiritual awakening. Oh, that's from Rumi. Okay. Yeah, that's Rumi. Now here's Father Richard Rohr. He says, love is who you are. When you don't live according to love, you are outside of being. You're not being real. When you love, you are acting according to your deepest being, your deepest truth. You are operating according to your dignity. Richard Rohr. So yeah, this heart chakra, the fourth chakra, it's this 12-petaled lotus of the heart. And I was thinking about how Bhakti, we have so many lotuses, and Krishna's body is compared to a lotus in so many ways. Lotus eyes, lotus feet, lotus hands, lotus navel, lotus, lotus, lotus. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking of this verse from Kunti Devi where her verse begins with this word, namaha. So when we say namaha, namo namaha, in so many prayers, it means I bow down to you, to the eternal you. I give up my ego, I hang it up outside, I don't let it in, and I come to you in all humility. Namo namaha, or namaste. You've probably heard namaste. So I'm going to read the translation of her prayer, and then I will sing her prayer in Sanskrit. So she says, she's praying to Krishna. He's leaving Hastinapur, the battle is over, and he's leaving, and she wants him to stay. There was all this big war, and he was there with them, and now the war is over, and he's leaving. So she's very sad. And so she says, my respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with the depression of a lotus flower. For you are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. Your glance is as cooling as the lotus, and your feet are engraved with lotuses. So let me just sing this for you. Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamalini, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajanhaye. And hear it again. Nama Pankajanabhaya, Nama Pankajamalini, Nama Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajanhaye. So that's one of the beautiful prayers of Kunti Devi. I think I'm going to share some of the other ones coming up as well, but she has these beautiful prayers in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th chapter. Do you ever sing the prayers of Kunti Devi?
Mm-mm.
Nice.
But there's that George Winston background where he's playing piano to some devotee who's reading them.
Wow, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you share that?
Yeah.
Share that in the chat.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
yeah.
Okay. So then I was thinking, because I'm kind of dipping, like honoring different traditions here. So I often think, when I think of the heart, I think of a woman saint from the Islamic tradition, believe it or not. Her name was Rabia, and she has this amazing prayer where she's praying to God, and she says, if I worship you just to enjoy the blessings of heaven, let me never see heaven. And if I worship you to avoid the fire of hell, then send me there forever. And she says, so let me just worship you for your beauty alone, which is really beautiful. Yeah. So let's see. I don't know if I have time for this other story of the monkey and the crocodile. So I think I'll save that, and we'll see if there's time in the discussion. This is the story of the monkey. You know the story of the monkey and the crocodile? No? Okay. Maybe I'll share that afterwards. So I'm going to pause for just a few minutes. You can write down impressions or reflections. I'll give them like a big prize. And so, so finally this one showed up and decided to teach them through animal stories, right? So the story of the monkey and the crocodile, which to me speaks about the heart chakra. So there's this monkey who lived in a jambu tree on the bank of a river, and there was a crocodile who lived in the river. A crocodile's a creature of the water, a monkey's a creature of the land. And they used to talk every day in the afternoon sun, and they would discuss philosophy, and they were friends. They knew each other for a long time. Mm-hmm. And finally, after knowing each other for a very long time, finally the crocodile says, we've been friends for so long, and I've never invited you to my home to meet my wife. And the monkey says, well, yeah, that's not really possible, because I'm a creature of the land, you're a creature of the water, and I can't really come to your home to meet your wife. And the crocodile says, no, it's no problem. I'll carry you on my back, and I'll take you there, and I'd love for you to meet my wife, So the monkey's like trusting, he's naive, right? He's like, all right. So he jumps on the crocodile's back, and they're going down the river. The crocodile's going faster and faster, and finally he gets to the really, really wide part of the river, and he says to the monkey, anybody heard this before?
Yeah.
You've heard this before? Yeah. Okay. And so finally gets to the really wide part of the river, and he says to his friend, the monkey, ha, you stupid monkey, I'm going to take you to the bottom of the river and eat your heart out. And the monkey seemed to be a little bit naive, but actually he was really smart. And so he said, you should have told me, because before we left my tree, because I always leave my heart whenever I leave my tree, I always leave my heart up in my tree. So if you really want to eat my heart out, you're going to have to take me back to my jumbo tree so I can get my heart, so I can get it for you so you can eat my heart out. So the crocodile was kind of dumb. And so he was fierce, but he was kind of dumb. So he swam back up the river and, took the monkey back to his tree, and the monkey jumped back onto his tree and said, I'm never coming down, and I know you're so evil and you're not really my friend anymore. So Prabhupada told this story to, any of you read Chasing Rhinos with the Swami? Yeah. So it's a really great read, and the first volume just came out in an audiobook with Sham Sundar reading it in his own voice, so I highly recommend it. This is an ad from our sponsor. Anyway, Prabhupada told Shama Sundar this story. Shama Sundar was his personal secretary and one of the earliest, most wonderful devotees, and when he was in charge of stuff, he was really a family atmosphere. But he had these desires in his heart to go like mine jewels and do all this exciting stuff, and Prabhupada kind of knew that he had those desires. So anyway, when he was leaving Prabhupada's service, Prabhupada told him this story. So he said, wherever you go out in the material world, there are many dangers. So wherever you go, just be sure to leave your heart at home with Krishna. That's really sweet, right? So, okay, let's go to the 5th chakra, which is called Vishuddha, or purified. The 5th chakra is the place of constructive communications, like harmonizing communications, our power of expression, our power of will, our lessons that are related to will and self-expression. And, because this is sort of a very bhakti take on the chakras, I would say. It's about surrendering our own willpower and our spirits to the will of God, learning the true nature of the power of choice. And harmonizing the energy of the throat chakra is about learning constructive communications. And the idea that true authority comes from aligning ourselves with God's will, with the understanding that no living being is alien to me. Every living being is my brother or sister. And this chakra is situated, as we would imagine, in the throat, the neck, the mouth, the jaw. And the color is blue. So what are the fears connected with the fifth chakra? I would say, well, let's go through, again, like a little recap here. Each chakra has its fears or its downside. So the fear of the first chakra is fear of authority or power of choice or trust within our tribe. The second chakra is about fear of having no voice or creative expression in personal or professional relationships. The third chakra is about fear of having no authority or self-confidence within ourselves, being out of control with substances, substance abuse, addiction. And then we just did the fourth chakra. So the fourth chakra is about the fear of the fourth chakra is the fear of another person's emotional control over our well-being. And in this fifth chakra, we might be fearing the will of God. We might fear releasing our power of choice and communication with the divine force. That let go and let God might be very fearful, right? So what are the strengths? Faith, self-knowledge, personal authority, our capacity to communicate, to make decisions, to keep our word to ourselves or others, giving mercy, communicating, right? Communicating mercy, giving freedom to love, giving compassion. It's less about judgment and more about the idea or the understanding that everyone has value. Okay? So you can see each chakra is evolving to a higher and higher place of spiritual evolution. And the invitation of this chakra, or the sacred truth of this chakra, is it's the center of choice, of self-expression. And the essence of the fifth chakra is faith. We can choose, do we have faith in our fears, or do we have faith in divinity? Who's in charge of my life? Where do I put the charge of my life? And there's an understanding that some unplanned event or relationship or illness will show up, and that our personal power is insufficient to get us through a crisis. The idea that our personal power is limited. And, it kind of begs the question, are we meant to wonder, is there some force here acting in our lives? And why is this happening? Why? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my family? Or why, right? And when things seem to be the most out of control, that's maybe a time when we can become receptive to a guidance that maybe I never welcomed before. When things are all like working off, with everything falling into place, I don't think about that, right? But when things are kind of out of control, I can start, what would you call that in 12-step? Like surrendering my will to a higher power. Yeah. Okay, so then, sometimes I just mentioned a little earlier, sometimes there's this, you hear stories about, well, I never thought I would be doing this or living here, but I am, and I'm happy, and all is well, I did all the degrees for the parents or whoever, and now I'm like clipping poodles or something, totally happy, or whatever it may be, right? Maybe. Or something else, right? But I was just where that flew in from was I was reading something about China, where people are giving up these like high-powered white-collar jobs where they work. In China it's work, but then they're feeling so unhappy in these jobs that they were striving so hard for, and then they're like dropping out and doing things like clipping poodles and feeling really happy or something. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's funny, like we've been talking about Bali, but I remember when we had our business, the things made from China were all like perfect and machine made, and they could never get the Balinese people to do that. They have their little, I forget what they call them, their little neighborhoods, and they would never do that kind of stuff. It's an interesting difference of people. Anyway, so the idea that life is only a spiritual journey, not my will, but thy will, right? That we seek some intuitive guidance. And what will that voice say to me? To be open to hearing, to like when I'm stumped and I'm bewildered and I can stop and take a breath and say, hey Krishna, tell me what to do because I am so lost. And sometimes that, when we really feel desperate or feel open, sometimes that voice comes through and says something super amazing, right? The idea that every choice we make, every thought or feeling is an act of power that has energy consequences. And when we surrender our personal will to divine will, our actions motivated by a personal will that's trusting in the divine authority can create the best effects. Accepting higher guidance, asking for guidance before every decision that I make. That's a really good practice, I would say, before you take on any endeavor or, like we chant Om Jnana, like Kylie, chanting Om Jnana. So praying for that higher dictation before I take on any endeavor. So asking for higher guidance, asking for guidance before every decision that I make. And inviting that kind of divine interference into my life. That the idea, you choose and I'll follow. And saying yes to my condition, whatever it may be, and then saying yes to God's timing. And then just this nice point that there's actually a difference between surrender and resignation. Like, this idea of, resignation. But surrender is like an active positive, meant to be, right? Not just, I give up, I'm finished. Then the idea of honesty and forgiveness, being able to retrieve our energy from the energies of the past. And it's kind of about an act of confession. So we're talking about the fifth chakra, which is self-expression, constructive communication. It's also very powerful to think of it in terms of confession. Of course, in the Catholic traditions, there's confession, but I think also in Bhakti we have this idea of going before the deity and saying, for so long I've turned away from you, and please now you take charge of me. I'm yours. So that's kind of like, or opening your heart in any way. It doesn't have to be like a ritual thing, It can be in every moment kind of a thing, right? Retrieving our spirits from negative missions where we've sent them. Uniting the head and the heart. And then, like, here's a typical thing. I want guidance, but just don't give me any bad news. Right? So that would be like a definition of conditional love. So then the idea that behaviors motivated by fear of internal growth can become an addiction, actually. And if those behaviors are used to avoid pain or avoid personal insight, that can become an addiction, a toxic addiction. So this is about withholding judgment of others or yourself, giving up the need to know why things are happening as they do, trusting unscheduled events as a form of spiritual direction, as angels sent from beyond. So this reminds me of this beautiful quote from our dear Rumi. And he says, maybe you've heard this before, but I like it a lot. He says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning is a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Treat each guest honorably." This is really so deep, Treat each guest honorably. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So it's about having the courage to make choices we need to make and accept what we can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference, right?
Where have I heard that?
Yep. And I really like this. I don't know if I'm running out of batteries, but I really like this also from the Islamic tradition, that in the Quran they advise that in our communications or expressions or speaking with others, first of all, somebody mentioned this to me today or yesterday, but first of all, I should ask myself, is what I'm about to say, is it necessary? Does this have to be said? Is it true? And is it kind? But sometimes we think, I got to tell this person this, otherwise they're just not going to know. Trusting the inner, their own inner voice, right? Perhaps what I'm about to say doesn't need to be said at all. Right? So here's some questions for ourselves. Am I able to express honestly and openly when needed? And if not, why not? Are you able to sense when you're receiving guidance to act upon? Do you pray for assistance with personal plans? Who are the people in your life that have control over your willpower? Do you try to control others? Do you bargain with yourself in situations you need to change but keep postponing action? And all of this reminds me of this beautiful poem from Mirabai. So this is a Robert Bly take on a poem of Mirabai. Mirabai is like a genre. There's like a million Mirabais, and she's kind of like whoever you want her to be. You can, yeah, right. Like if you want to be conservative, you can quote Mirabai. If you want to be radical, you can quote Mirabai. But I really like this one. So this is called "Awake to the Name." So she says, "To be born in a human body is rare. Don't throw away the reward of your past good deeds. Life passes in an instant. The leaf doesn't go back to the branch. The ocean of rebirth sweeps up all beings hard, pulls them into its cold-running, fierce, implacable currents. Giridhari, which is a name for Krishna. Your name is the raft, the one safe passage over. Take me quickly." All the awake ones travel with Mira, singing the name. She says with them, "Get up, stop sleeping. The days of a life are short." So that brings me to the end of the discussion of the fourth and fifth chakras.